And at that point, I'm just going to share this onto our pages, and then we will get started. So we are now live, and I'm just sharing I tagged you, and I'm just sharing it onto our page, and we will be good to go. All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are well. Welcome once again to Natural We Community Hour of Power. We are excited that you are in. For those who are joining us on Zoom, please go ahead and make sure that you are on mute. And we're going to get started. As many of you know, we get started with a brief guided meditation exercise to kind of just center ourselves. I think it's especially important to do it today as we are gearing up for school and semester starting and different things of that nature. So go ahead and just find yourself in a comfortable position. You're sitting down, laying down, however you are. You can have your eyes open, have your eyes closed, whatever is more comfortable for you. And just want to breathe out and breathe in and breathe out and breathe in, and just continue to breathe. And as you are breathing out and breathing in, just know that you are more than well. Just know that you are purposed in this life and that everything works together for all of the good. And as you continue to breathe out, just imagine all the stress just leaving your body with each breath out. And with each breath in, all of the goodness that this world has to offer, that God has intended for us, is pouring into you, pouring into your soul and pouring into your spirit. And take a deep, deep breath out. All the worry, all the anxiety is leaving. And a really big breath in. All the love, all the encouragement, all of the support, everything that you need is coming in. And go ahead and begin to open your eyes, come back, center, room. And so that was just a brief exercise, guided meditation that we do, and it just really be able to bring us into the present and where we are and what we're doing. And so with that, we are going to jump right on in. Good evening once again, PJ Robinson with Natural We Community. We are excited for today's Hour of Power. Dr. Shaneka Bullins is our guest today, and she is just great. Dr. Bullins is entering year 13 of teaching high school level science in Los Angeles, California. She has a bachelor's degree in Spanish literature from UCLA and a master's in teaching secondary science from the University of Southern California. She later earned her doctorate in educational leadership with a concentration in educational psychology from the University of Southern California. She has almost 2 decades of teaching, tutoring experience in chemistry, biology, physics, forensic science, environmental science, geometry, psychology, and beginning Spanish. She currently attends the Tabernacle of Praise Worship Center, pastored by Suffragan Bishop David A. Rohn, and she is married to her best friend, Wilbert Bullins, and they have 3 amazing children, Taylor, Jay, and Lee, and they're expecting their 4th child, Wilbert Jr., this fall. So without further ado, Dr. Shaneka Bullins, Dr. Sister Girl, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you, and I'm just gonna let you introduce yourself in your own way.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, TJ. Thank you, Natural We community, for welcoming me in. I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight. As anyone who knows me, they know that I stand on a firm soapbox, a firm soapbox, which has driven me, the past 2 decades, to be a proponent of education for students of color, for our Black students. Um, I think I want to tell a little bit of my testimony and my story. I graduated high school with a 4.3 GPA. I was accepted into every college that I applied to, and I received lots and lots and lots of scholarships. When I stepped foot on the campus of UCLA and began taking science and math courses and putting myself in order to attain the long time dream ever since I was a little girl of becoming a medical doctor, I very quickly learned that the GPA that I had earned at my school was not quite the same GPA of my non-Black counterparts. And I recognized what educational disparity looked like at that point because I was living it. I understood what it meant to be smart and understand and not have the skills necessary to use the intelligence and the capacity that I had in order to thrive. I hadn't really been challenged. There were a few high school courses that really challenged me. I had my AP English class, my 12th grade year, taught by Miss Gloria Hill. I will never forget that woman until the very day I leave this earth. That woman pushed us like crazy. There were no excuses allowed. She gave us a ridiculous amount of work every night. But I can look in retrospect now and say that if she had not trained her students to the capacity that she did, I would not have experienced the success that I did at the college level. I've never gotten anything less than an A in a writing-based course throughout my academic career. And attribute so much of that to her because she broke down whatever I felt were my inabilities, whatever I felt like, made me incapable, whatever excuses I had. She pushed past all of that. Again, an amazing Black woman. Greatly impact my writing abilities, and it changed the course and trajectory of my future. So I have her, to attribute to that. In the math and sciences, through in high school, I went all the way up to AP Calculus BC, which at the time was, I think, one of the most advanced math classes offered. And I did not pass the AP test. And it was really, really, really difficult. The course was very difficult. And the teacher didn't teach it in a way to where, the challenge was welcomed and accepted. And, failure was a part of the growth process. It was, I'm going to give a lesson. You guys do the homework, start it in class, finish it at home. I have a test every Friday. And it was these, teams that we get into, that we see, within education that do a major disservice to kids who look different, therefore think different, and therefore have differing needs. I didn't know what differentiated instruction and all of those things meant or looked like because that was not the experience that I had as a high school student. I received normal didactic instruction. Teachers in the front of the room, lecture, lecture, lecture. I take notes. Who cares if you even know how to take notes? You figure it out. You take your notes. You take your test. I wish you the best. Translated well into my college career because that's exactly what, undergraduate is like. But I didn't grow as a math learner. And that was where I kind of hit a block in the road where this love for math that I had all the way up to this point now was stifled. I had a similar experience in science. In high school, I was always at the top. I remember in high school chemistry, I had the highest percentage in chemistry out of all the kids that year on campus that were taking chemistry. And, I was in honors chemistry. I had like an A+, I had like 110%. Loved the class. We offered AP biology and offered AP chemistry, but my counselors didn't tell me hey, Shaneka, you're
Mhm.
well in sciences. You should take these advanced courses. They weren't even given to me as an option. I didn't even realize that I would be, I wouldn't say at a deficit per se, but I didn't realize that it would have been of great benefit to me to have had that advanced placement exposure to sciences, wanting to be pre-med. Wasn't even offered. With that being my high school experience, and then transition, and the class that challenged me was physics. I took honors physics my 11th grade year of high school. And it was one of the most difficult classes I've ever taken, even to this day right now. That class was so challenging for me. And it was because the teacher, again, he was didactic in nature. He was, he would assign homework. It's read this chapter out of the book. I'm going to lecture about it in class. We'll do some practice problems. You do the practice problems for home that I've assigned for homework. We have a test every Friday or every other Friday or whatever the case was. We did labs. We did, hands-on things, but were things tailored to my learning style and learning needs? No. Did he offer a bunch of office hours and additional supports? No. I definitely had an experience that translated very poorly into a high-performing university. I enrolled into this large university. I didn't even have the knowledge of HBCUs. I didn't even know what an HBCU was, graduating high school, into the university level. Like so many deficits that I look back at, and oh my goodness, there was so much information that was withheld from me as a Black scholar. And I'm supposed to be like top of the class, right? I was the top 10, not even 10%, but the top 10 highest performing students on my campus. How do I not know about HBCUs? How do I not know the difference between, the UC system having class sizes of 300 students for a lecture versus, a more small, intimate setting? Because if I had known the difference, in retrospect, I may not have chosen to go to UCLA. I may have chosen to go to a university that was more tailored to my academic needs. I need the one-on-one. I need to be able to engage in Q&A in the middle of a lecture for my understanding at that point. My reading comprehension skills were not as strong as I thought that they were, because when I had to sit down and read a math text and a science text at the college level, I struggled. I remember being
right. Yeah, and what you're speaking to happens to so many of our people and students Absolutely. And everything. And so and it can, when you're in that college setting now, you can start to feel bad about yourself, or you start kind of actually questioning your intellect and your capacity to learn and the knowledge and things. And a lot of times it's a matter of skill and not the mental capacity.
Exactly.
So what did you do to overcome that and decide that, no, I'm still going to stick with this science, to where you're actually like teaching science now?
Mm-hmm. So I guess I'll paint a quick picture of, my journey to where I am now. So when I reached that point, and it was, just completely overwhelming. And, I was going to say that I remember at one point I was taking a chemistry class, and I was studying, and I'm trying to solve a problem. And I'm trying to solve the problem, and I got it wrong. I'm looking at the solution. I'm like, that's not right. Okay, all right, cool. Scratch it. Do it again. Did it again. Looked at the solution. Still wrong. What am I doing wrong? Scratch it. Cool. I'm going to do it again. And I did that, I think, like maybe 6 times. TJ, I became so infuriated and frustrated and just felt so worthless in that moment that I took my $200 textbook that I had to pay for out of my pocket and threw it across the room, and it's broken in 2 pieces. And I
believe it
on the floor, and I cried. I boo-hooed until like I felt like I had no strength. And then I got, and I picked up my 2 pieces of my $200 book, and I sat down and kept doing those problems. For me, that was a breaking point for me, because I had to realize it does not matter how smart you are. There are skills that you need that are a necessity, to thrive in STEM careers. If I was not willing to build that capacity within myself, I was not going to attain the goals that I had set. And I was relentless. In my pursuit of becoming a doctor. There was nothing that was going to stop me. something I always kept in the back of my head was, Shaneka, if you drop out, if you flunk out, you have to go back home. You have to go back home with nothing in your hand. You don't have a degree. You have nothing to show for all the time, effort, and energy that's been sown into you. Is that going out? And because that was not an option for me, girl, you better sit down and learn how to do this organic chemistry. You better learn these reactions. You better figure out Le Chatelier's principle. Don't nobody care how you feel about it. You better get up with tears in your eyes, and you need to do these problems. And I went from being a student that had to drop and see, and a lot of people, again, they don't know this part of my story. I went from being the 4.3 GPA in high school to being a really low GPA in undergraduate to dropping classes and repeating classes and getting D-. I got a D- at one point in a chemistry class, right? And I'm a chemistry teacher. But is the grade that I got in that class reflective of my capacity? Not if I'm able to teach chemistry at the high school, at the advanced placement, and the college level. It's not a reflection of my skill or my capacity. You know, this was a part of my journey and a part of my story. And I had to learn the skills that were necessary to get me to where I am now. So I had to, you know, persist through the chemistry. I had to persist through the physics. I had to persist through the life sciences in order for me to stay on track. And the only reason why I didn't go into being a medical doctor, because I was prepared to take the MCAT. I had the volunteer experience. I had the summer programs. I was ready. It was something very serious. Was because God very clearly told me that he had called me to teach. He told me this about a month before my graduation from UCLA. And because of that, I changed my whole course and trajectory. It was very, you know, reluctant initially. And it took me quite a few years before I was okay with the fact that God had not called me to be a medical doctor. But today I'm Dr. Shaneka Bullins. So I still wear that title, and I still have earned that title, you know, and I'm still making an impact. But what I experienced, I had to translate into my classrooms. And that's the rigor that I bring into my classrooms for the Black and Brown students that I have the pleasure of teaching every day. I need them to know, yes, this is hard, but failure is not who you are. Failure is what you do. And you don't find success without failure. And because that is literally a part of the curriculum, a part of my educational philosophy, every student that I encounter is on that journey with me. We have to fail in order to find success. It is a part of the process.
Yeah, it's interesting that you speak to that. And I'm also reminded of some of my time during undergraduate. You know, my very first semester I had 1.9. And so I understand the repeating classes and things, and a lot of what you are speaking to is then how do we use, you know, our experiences and understanding like, oh, maybe I wasn't quite as prepared as I thought, or there's these different things and that, to then impart into our students, especially to our children, and especially when it's in a system that has been set up to actually. A lot of times people say that, you know, the education system is failing our students. When you think about it culturally and prospectively, no, it's actually doing exactly what it was intended to do. Our students were not in mind when the school systems were set up and things. And so drawing up, knowing this, how do we impart into our kids? How do we not only teach them how to succeed in the system that wasn't set for them, but how do we also help them in that process where they're not, you know, I don't want any kids to feel the way I did. You know, I don't want any kids to feel like they are nothing, like to feel like they are dumb, when it's like, no, you're not. Let's learn these skills. Let's reach you where you are and build you up. So what are some things that you do in the classroom? I know you said that like the kid, you know, the rigor is in there where they know like you might have to fail to learn. And I don't even know if it's really a fail, but more of, no, you're going to go through this challenge and go through this learning process and learn the lesson to keep on moving. So what are some of the things that you do?
So within my classroom, I ensure that what I am doing appeals to different types of learning styles. So there's a misbelief that, you know, certain kids only learn certain ways. And that is not in any way, no research supports that this to be a fact or a truth. There are preferred learning styles. So if we want kids to learn, at the end of the day, if a student prefers to learn by doing things with their hands, then we have to provide kinesthetic opportunities for students to be challenged. If students prefer to learn by what they hear, then we have to provide auditory activities for students to obtain information. If students prefer to read to learn, then we have to provide them with reading and literacy-based opportunities, so on and so forth. So I try to teach with multiple modalities, the same lesson. I can teach the same content and same lesson with multiple modalities, hoping that every student's learning style will be appealed to, and so that all the students ultimately will get the same information in multiple modalities, so that they'll have a higher percentage of a chance of actually retaining that information and being able to make sense of it. So like, you know, sense making is a big part of, you know, what science education. Inquiry-based learning, right? This is like a buzz phrase right now in science, but it's pretty much this idea of helping kids to understand that science is happening around them all day, every day. As a chemistry teacher, I pose situations and scenarios to my students. So we call them phenomena. I can pose a phenomenon to my group of students, and I can say, why in the world is this happening? What that does is it prompts in their minds, you know, if it's something interesting and engaging, it's going to prompt in their minds, whoa, why is this happening? So then now I can take them on a learning journey to go back and answer this question that we started with in the beginning. And for me, that makes their learning valuable. I can teach a set of standards. I can teach them, you know, a subset of information. But if I'm teaching them a journey, students are going to be willing to fail, because ultimately, whatever I'm doing is going to get me back to the answer of why in the world did this thing happen in the beginning that I saw. And I feel like this is what we need in our classrooms. Is our students need culturally relevant education. They need to learn in ways that appeal to them as a whole person. So not only do our Black kids need to learn about, you know, being teens, or about, you know, being in the inner city and all these other things. What about your Black skin? How does this impact you as a Black person? So, you know, I can teach chemistry from the lens of, you know, climate change. If I'm talking about climate change, how does this affect us as Black people? How does this affect our countries of origin? How does this affect you know, our birth rates? How does this affect so on and so forth? We can talk about COVID-19 and talk about the disparities, right? About how within the African American community, we are the ones hit the hardest because we're the ones with a lot of the pre-existing conditions. We have highest rates of heart disease, highest rates of diabetes. So if we already have pre-existing conditions, and we are the ones with some of the lowest paying professions, you know, within our nation, we're going to be hit the hardest with COVID, because we're still considered so let's look at the data, right? We're going to pull in current events. We're going to pull in politics. We're going to pull in science, because it all makes a difference. For example, I told my kids, I taught during the 2018 year of election. And I remember that fall, I had students actually looking through our voters' notebook. And we were, I wanted them to learn about the fact that laws were being proposed about banning plastic bags everywhere in California. And I asked them, do you think this is a good or bad decision? Who knows? But these are questions that we are asked about all the time, right? We are asked to make decisions with very limited information. So my goal is that I want to work with students that will walk out of my classroom as informed citizens. I need them to be able to make informed decisions that impact the community around them. If I am voting about things that have environmental impact, I need to understand the science behind these decisions, and I need to look at short-term and long-term effects. So, you know, I pose those types of questions, and I try to situate everything in a real-world context. If it is not about your Black skin, it's about your Black community. If it's not about your Black community, it's about your Black family, your Black health, your Black history. let's talk about it. Who are you? And how do these things that you're learning directly impact you? Because if it doesn't make sense and if it doesn't have meaning, why are we even sitting here? Nobody cares about protons, neutrons, electrons. These things are not going to, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to have this major impact on your ability to make money one day, or will they? If I pose it to the students in a way that will make them think, man, maybe I need to study environmental science. Maybe I need to study, chemistry, because it impacts the community in this fashion, or it impacts me in this fashion. That's a game changer. And this is how we get kids to reinvest themselves in STEM careers and see themselves in these careers, because they see, I have a voice and I have to use this voice and use this platform to make a difference for my community.
Right, and it's so important. Right now, you're really speaking to Amos Wilson when he says "Awakening the African Genius." That's a book that Amos Wilson wrote, and it really about tapping into our genius. But as you're saying, coming from it from a cultural perspective, right? So when we talk about, well, many of our scholars move into the arts and humanities, which is nothing wrong with that. Arts and humanities, clearly, teaching in Black studies. But then when we think about it in terms, and if you're on Zoom, make sure that you're on mute, please, if you're not already on mute. From an African cultural perspective, environmental science is very important, because we as an African people have always understood the connection to our environment and the interdependence. And it's not, no, we're just going to loot the earth. I'm reminded of Tracy Chapman song, how can we stand aside and watch the rape of the world? No, but when we think about it now, how does this link into our community? And so being able to come with that from an understanding. And I'm just going to, real quick, people have been shouting you out on the live throughout, so I'm just going to read a couple of them. You have a few hand claps. And Dr. Bullins, you are awesome. Dr. Shaneka Bullins with the hearts. You are an awesome educator. Some more hand claps. And we also see, I saw a couple more. Yes, cultural relevancy in STEM is so important. And just listening to you, thinking about the money factor. Now, how do we use this to pour back into our communities? Because we are our community, and we need to be able to pour into ourselves. So I'm going to transition just a little bit. You are working really hard to address this achievement gap. There are a few studies that show that in terms of our children from pre-K through third grade, our kids are actually right on par with their counterparts in terms of education. And then something happens in that third grade mark. Now, this is when regular school is already there. And then there's this achievement gap. And so now, with so many of our kids now distance learning, you are serving the communities. I want you to just be able to talk about what you are doing this semester. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I, being on my soapbox 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I absolutely recognize that distance learning has presented an opportunity to further increase the achievement gap. And for parents who don't understand this idea of achievement gap, what this means is that our students are not on par. Our Black students are not on par and on pace with their non-Black counterparts, which means that they do not have the same academic ability and capacity as they are transitioning from grade to grade. And as they go from grade to grade, like CJ has mentioned, starting third grade, right? So when I'm transitioning now to fourth grade, my Black student is now behind their counterparts in grade 3 curriculum. Now in fourth grade, transitioning to fifth grade, now I'm even more behind. So every year, right, this gap widens to where you have kids in the setting in which I teach in South LA, South LA High School, I have students that cannot read. This is not an overly dramatic statement. This is a fact. I work with 15 and 16-year-old young men and women who don't have the capacity to identify words on paper. I'm not talking about reading comprehension. I am talking about they cannot sound out words. They lack, phonetics. They lack skills that our kids are mastering at the elementary level, or they should be mastering, I should say. And I can't even explain how gut-wrenching and heartbreaking it is to see my Black young men and women be so far behind the achievement gap, and for there to be such a major disconnect for our students of color. It's gut-wrenching, it's heartbreaking. I have shed many tears, many days, because I just wonder, how did things get this bad? How did this young man make it to this point and somebody allowed him to leave the elementary setting or even the middle school setting, and you still don't have the capacity to identify words on paper? How am I the first person that has seen this? I have kids in my classes that, to me, in my humble professional opinion, again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. This is not, my area of expertise. I'm not a special education guru of any sort. But, 13 years in the game, you meet certain students and you're like, you may possibly have an undiagnosed need that has somehow been overlooked all these years. I know you did not make it to me 10 years in the educational system, and the very first person that has seen that you have some special need that has gone unmet. And to me, stuff like that, mind-boggling, which to me,
right,
now in this pandemic, has made it abundantly clear that parents, we have to be doing something at home. If we leave it up to this system that has already been designed with your son and your daughter's failure in mind, they're going to be failed. If you have a student that is performing below grade level, at this point, we're failing them as their parents. And we have to take that responsibility. It doesn't feel good. And we understand that, in the community, or not the community, I'm sorry, the time, it is very difficult, if you don't have a traditional home. I mean, it's just difficult to kind of promote traditionalism, for the home structure right now. You need two-parent homes, and you need dual incomes in order to even survive these days. So the idea of being a stay-at-home mother or a stay-at-home father, these ideas are they seem so far-fetched from reality, because both parents have to be working full-time in order to even make ends meet, in order to bring, food to the table. So to have one parent be able to be at home and homeschool kids, or be meeting with teachers and doing all of these things while school was in session and everything was business as usual, that's a challenge. And now there's this expectation on parents that your children are now not enrolled in school and they're at home full time. Now you have to take on even more of the academic responsibility.
Right.
It does not feel good. In a lot of ways, it may not be fair, but I need you all to understand, it's our time to step up. This is my plea to parents. I need parents to understand and hear me. We have to take our students' education, our children's education, into our own hands. There's no other option. Otherwise, our children are going to continue to be failed, and the gap that has the capacity of being formed right now during this time of pandemic is going to be so substantial that we don't know if schools are going to have the capacity to remediate your child to where they still need to be and graduate on time. We may have students now graduating at 19 and 20 for the next couple of years in order to remediate what's happening. If you don't want those types of long-term effects on your child, you have to intervene now. If you haven't been doing it before, it is not too late. If you have a child that is 0 to 18, you should be doing academic activities with this child every single day. If you need resources, if you need ideas, reach out to me. I am available. I don't know everything, but I'm connected to a network of educators that will get you on point. We have to do something. And again, this is my plea. Parents, the work that I am trying to do now is I now understand that we are community. And I mean it in every sense of the word. It takes a village. So we all have to do what we have to do to bring it all to the table and do something for our Black kids. Whatever kind of systems we need to create. I've told everybody, now the school has started. I am making myself available beginning the first week of September, 3 hours out of the week, totally for free, to support any middle school to college level science. I will do it to the best of my capacity based on the skill set that I have. And whatever I can't do, I will refer you to somebody else. We'll get the help. But we have to do something different, families, because we cannot expect this system to not fail our kids if all we see is that they're failing our kids. We can protest, we can have attitudes, we can be mad, we can go to the principal, we can do all these things. And guess what? Your child is still going to be in an academic deficit unless you do something different. Buy the workbooks, download the worksheets, watch the videos. There are resources online. We can do Khan Academy. You can look up YouTube video. There are resources available. Just always be doing something that is academically engaging. Make those flashcards, mom and dad. Make the babies go over the flashcards before they get those tablets and they're on these video games all day. Because if our kids can sit in front of PS4s and Nintendo Switches and all of these other devices and be on TV and YouTubing and cell phones all day, they can get down with this distance learning. They can get in front of these computers and they can focus if we make it a priority. We have to teach our kids how to prioritize what's important, because we all know as adults, we can't just simply do what it is that we want to do all day long. We got to do what we got to do. Okay, I got to be a little ghetto. We got to do what we do if we're going to make ends meet. And, you know, we work hard so that we're able to play hard. We sow now for the future that we want. And if we don't teach our kids long-term gratification or delayed gratification, then how do they know that what I'm doing today directly impacts the successes I'm going to have tomorrow? If all they're thinking about is now, we have to teach delayed gratification. Kids don't, come out of the womb understanding the concept of delayed gratification. So how do you instill delayed gratification into your kids? That needs to be a part of your home curriculum. How do you teach organizational skills to kids? They don't fall out of the womb thinking, oh, I need to get, dividers and a binder. And, I need to, spend maybe 30 minutes a week to make sure all my work is filed away and my paper shouldn't be balled up in a folder. And you know what I mean? We have to teach and instill these skills, because if we want them to keep nice homes and things of that nature when they're older, there are skill sets that we have to teach them now. They don't fall out of the womb learning to do laundry. We teach them. They don't fall out of the womb learning to wash dishes. We teach them. So why do we expect the educational system to then teach them some of the major skills that they need, like their finances? Why aren't our kids opening up checking and savings accounts as teenagers? Why aren't we putting them on our credit card so that they can build credit? By the time they turn 18, they have excellent credit, and then they're able to go in and do the things that they want to do. Why aren't
right? I'm gonna pin you right here. Right, I'm gonna pin you right here. I know you're on a roll. You're passionate. Yes. I love it.
My soapbox is serious.
And it is important, right? And it is, when educators get in the room, I'm trying to jump in there, right? But it is, and we've seen some of the back and forth in terms of now parents are expected to do teachers' jobs and things like that, so on and so forth. And I don't want us to get into that part right now. What because I'm going to ask you about the program that you just mentioned in a minute. But what I do want to say is that when we look at this from a Black perspective, from an African-centered perspective, the parents are the first teachers and continue to be the teachers. Yes, we know that we are not our kids' only influence, but we are a major one, and we're in the home. And so when we're talking about it in this age in terms of distant learning, we have already seen that the educational system was not set up for our children to succeed. Right. And so when in this moment, we've had to protest in the midst of COVID. Us as a people have had to put our already compromised health on the line to protest. It's like, no, we matter even in the midst of the pandemic. It's an all-out war and assault on our humanity. And so when we see this as an outright assault on our humanity and we see it as a war, then this part right here, we're speaking to the educational front. So I don't know if y'all read All Quiet on the Western Front in high school, but I had to. 10th grade, the little yellow book with the mustard gas, right? And talking about the Eastern Front and the Western Front of the war. So when we take a look at it in terms of our humanity and us as a people, we have a war psychologically, we have a war educationally, we have a war economically, we have a war spiritually, we have a war culturally, so on and so forth. And so in this educational front of the war, in terms of having our complete liberation and on every level for us as a people, what do we do and how do we do it? And yes, it can seem overwhelming, and it is a lot in the midst of still trying to function in society, and we do have to work, and we are all zoomed out, but this is also the reality. So this is in one of those moments, like, how bad do we want it? Yeah. How bad do we want to make sure that we leave this place better for our children so that they can continue to take the baton and continue for this liberation on the educational front. And we have a comment here that once said about the cooperative economics. Yes, and learning that and understanding the pivotal moment of that education takes in that. And so what everyone is seeing right now with this exchange between Dr. Bullins and I is that aspect where Asa Hilliard talks about to be an African teacher. And when you talk about to be an African teacher, it's going further than just the content, further than sodium is Na on the periodic table, but right. We reach into the hearts and minds and souls of our children and understand where they are understanding that this is individual and this is community. I'm going to pause right there before I get amped up and go on a roll too, Shaneka. But you just mentioned that you are so dedicated to this and you understand that it does take a village, that you will be offering tutoring starting the first week of September. Can you just kind of speak to that and how you foresee it structuring and in that nature?
Yes. So I am going to be offering tutoring sessions at minimum 3 times a week for an hour long. There will be group sessions. I'm basically going to be creating a Facebook page where I will be posting my Zoom link and password to where if parents have students that have any questions or, want some study tips or whatever the case is for their students from middle school through college level science, I want them to check in with me and chime in. It's going to be like, an open session, an open forum for that hour. And if students would like to meet with me outside of that space, then I am offering reasonably priced either one-on-one tutoring or group tutoring for groups of either 2, 3, or 4 max students outside of that. And I actually only have a limited amount of spaces. I shared this information several weeks ago and families were very on it. So I only have just a couple of spaces left. Because of course, working full time and the other things I do, wife and mother, heavily involved in my church. I don't have a lot of time, but whatever time I have, I'm absolutely willing to be a part of the community. I don't want to just talk about it. I want to be about it. I don't want students to fall farther behind. I do not want to watch. I don't want to actively sit back and watch the achievement gap continue to widen when I know that I could have been doing something. So I want to, in good conscience, get up every day and know that I am doing what it is that I am saying. Okay, I need my actions to align with my words. So I will be offering, I'm not for sure yet if it's going to be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of deal, but it will be 1-hour sessions, completely free of charge. Come check in with me. So it'll be like an office hours kind of thing, right? You come in, if you have a question for that time that I'm available, ask me your questions. Let's go over the content together, so on and so forth. My tutoring sessions that will be, have a very reasonable fee. If students decide to sign up that way, then those will be much more structured. We will be checking in to ensure that students are able to confidently complete classwork and homework assignments, as well as being well prepared for assessments. So there's a very different structure there that will be made available. And in addition to what I'm offering in terms of tutoring, I also wanted to offer services for educational consultation. I wanted to offer services to host workshops and seminars on curriculum development, unit level to day-to-day level planning, next generation science standards, aligned instruction for, either pre-service or currently in service educators, as well as engaging students in inquiry using phenomena, summative assessments that are outside of, our normal scope of, the multiple choice test taking, and even helping teachers to design effective distance learning science classrooms. So if these are any things that are of, of any value or of any interest to anybody, please reach out to me. Again, I think that I'm reasonably priced to provide this support. But at the end of the day, I want our kids to be reached with a long touching reach. And the only way that I can do that is by either reaching out to these kids myself or empowering others to have the capacity to reach in the same fashion. So
how do people contact you?
Educational services. And again, we should have a website and a Facebook page launched soon.
Okay. So, and to piggyback off, and we are so thankful for Dr. Bullins and, really putting her words to action. It's sometimes it's easy to say what we need to do, but then coming up with a plan and putting it into action, sometimes there's a pause or it doesn't happen, but Dr. Bullins is doing that. And so we thank you and we honor you for that. And so Dr. Bullins and I actually talked about this a few weeks ago. And so Dr. Bullins has the science. Don't ask me about the chemistry. I will just say I just want to play with fire and watch things burn. But part of this conversation in terms of cultural competence and African-centered learning has also been how do our children learn more about themselves instead of just, and then they were slaves, and then there was Rosa Parks and Dr. King, and now everything's good. But so many times it's like, oh, I didn't know that these people did this. Oh, I didn't know that we were so smart and things like that. And can you guys hear us now on Facebook Live?
Can you hear on Facebook?
I can hear us. Okay, so I think people can. If you can hear us, please just speak and just type in the comments that you can hear us, so we know that we're back. While we're checking to see if you guys can still hear us, Dr. Bullins, in the Zoom comments, someone said, I have a crush on this teacher. Who is she? I'm pretty sure you know who that is. And then we have a couple other comments in terms of what we've been talking about. Someone said, now you're using big words, Shaneka Bullins. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Brilliant mind. That's from Ingrid Jeffers. And okay, you guys can hear. All right, thank you. Seeing Dream Educational Services, that is beautiful. That is great. And leave it up there for a couple minutes. But so in partnership with Dr. Bullins, Natural We Community is actually in the beginning stages of figuring out and being able to offer some tutoring throughout the semesters as well while we are in this distance learning. We will be having more information on that as it comes. But that is, and not only will it be tutoring, but it will also be, what are some of the African stories and African-American stories that are not told? What are some of the history that we wish we knew that is not taught in traditional schooling? Natural We is going to be making that available. We will also be looking for tutors on the English and writing side, as Dr. Bullins has the science side, just so that, as we said, we are a community. We are a community. We are in this together. We got, and we are going to this. And this is what it takes to really, truly be more than well. And so we are excited. Please continue to look at our page, and because we are going to do what we can to help our children, to help our students, and to help our scholars. It is so important. It is so important. Someone on the live said that, wanted to figure out how to use his or her degree, listening to our Hour of Power. It's like, oh, I need to do something, feeling convicted. And so the degree is in biochemistry, just thinking, have something to give and thinking about how to help kids in the community, probably help with elementary school kids. And if there's anyone else who is listening to this and wants to figure out how to help with children, please email us, naturalwecommunity@gmail.com. Brother Tim, Associate Director Tim, if you're still listening, if you can type that into the comment box. But we're in this together. So if you are thinking that you want to do something, you don't know exactly what you want to do or how it fits in, Natural Week Community is here. Not only are we here to offer, the tutoring for the children, but if you are someone who wants to do something for the community, no matter what level it is on, you can meet with myself, you can meet with Tim or our board, and we will figure out what you can do, how you can, and how we can help you accomplish that. And so we are just grateful. Dr. Bullins, I'm going to turn it over to you if you have any final words before we wrap up and give our announcement. Thank you. We appreciate you. We love you, all of that, but go ahead.
Thank you so much again to the Natural Week community for allowing me to come in this space and stand on my soapbox, nice and proud, and just to, explain or just have an opportunity to just give my plea. And, before this session ends, I just want to plead one last time. Parents, please, if you hear me, please do your due diligence to engage with your students in something academic 7 days a week. Be completely relentless in your child's pursuit of education, knowledge, and skills. We have to change the course and trajectory of our families, of our children, but it starts at home. We cannot expect a broken system. We cannot expect this broken system to be fixed and to all of a sudden fix all of our problems, because it's not going to. The system is designed the way that it works. So we have to counter that system. And the only way that our kids are going to be overcomers and learn the skills that they need in order to thrive in spite of the system is because of what you're instilling in them at home, and because of what you're saying to them, because of you speaking knowledge into them, because of you speaking confidence and wisdom into them, and telling them that no matter what's happening, no matter what comes your way, you have the capacity. You are an overcomer. It doesn't matter what the adversities are that you face, young man, young woman, you have what it takes. And let's keep pushing, let's keep striving, let's keep thriving. You have to build it up in them so that when they go out into this world, they know, I stand on the shoulders of giants. There's nothing that can come my way that will ever defeat me. And if we don't tell them that, we can't expect the K-12 system and the public education system to tell them that, because they're not going to.
Right, and we will be more than well. Our children will be more than well. We are awakening the African genius within our children, and we're going to answer the call. And again, this has just been a great hour of power. Thank you so much, Dr. Bullins. We appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who has commented and shared and is listening. And Dr. Bullins, you got a support system. You got a support system, and we are so grateful for it. So thank you, everyone. Brother Tim, our Associate Director, has put our email address and our phone number in the chat boxes for anyone who wants to be involved, is interested in being involved in this aspect of it. And we are wrapping up, but before we wrap up, this coming Saturday, August 15th, with Project Feed the One, Precious Mitchell and New Providence Baptist Church, Natural We is hosting our next community feeding from 11 to 1 at New Providence Baptist Church. We are so excited. You get a meal, and we are very excited to announce thank you so much, Pastor Quentin McKinney. He has orchestrated us being able to give 100 boxes of food, of groceries, of produce, in addition to the meal. And so one box of food feeds a family for 1 week. One box of food feeds a family for 1 week. So between 11 to 1, come get your meal. Please have your mask. We do practice physical distance. But also you can get a box. So if you know of anyone who is in need of some groceries that will help out, please send them to New Providence Baptist Church, 10200 South Normandy Avenue in Los Angeles from 11 to 1 this coming Saturday. And so we are excited. And thank you once again, Natural Week community. And we will see you here next Tuesday with our guest, Dr. Tiffany Caesar. We will have more information on our next guest and talking about the arts next week. So take care and have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.